How you doing?
Good.
Okay. Let's bring up Valencia first. Oh, so not to make all these other people. Okay. It gets easier than most of each one. Okay.
Is it snowing or is that fog? It's supposed to be really bad fog.
No,
What is this?
these are all the letters from our neighbors.
Oh, okay.
Here we got it all set up
Did
here.
everybody see the Valencia stuff? The letters?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Did you understand me on the phone when I was up north? Did you get my
Just
drift?
enough, yes.
I felt so bad. That's
He's giving me a
terrible
quote.
reception there. Yeah, he's a good man. He's a fair man.
Good, good. He responded. All right, so I think should we give
Hi, Larry.
should we give Amanda a minute?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, we got the girl.
Yeah, Amanda's coming tonight, right?
Oh, that's a beautiful picture.
Did you talk to?
Like that? He was here on
did you
Thanksgiving.
Maybe it's the seat. We're always waiting for that seat.
Hmm?
So we're always waiting for that seat.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, it is.
She remembered. Saw this guy in St. Thomas a couple weeks ago. Octopus. And this queen.
Oh, I'm looking
I
at
know,
you.
yeah.
Oh, my God.
There she is. The guy
Okay.
next to me, I didn't have a camera in it. The guy next to me, I tapped him and he took a picture and took my email address.
Oh, that's cool.
And sent me,
Where was that?
St. Thomas.
Oh, yeah,
It's
nice.
a little kind of beach off the beaten path that the locals go to. It was great.
You scuba diving over there?
No, that I think that's next. I think I like snorkeling too much. So I should try to do it. Okay, let me just get it. Here she comes.
Welcome. Yeah, it was.
We good?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Sylvania Township Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting, and I'd ask for the roll call, please.
Here.
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 Okay. And I'd like to see if we have a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting, November 9th, 2015. Everybody had a chance to look at those, and if so, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
For a second?
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, now we're on to old business. Is there any old business? Not hearing any. We'll move on to new business. And before we start, since we got a little bit of a crowd here today, I'm going to ask anybody that might give testimony, if you think you might come up and want to speak, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand now, please. And do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Now we'll go on to the first case, which I have a feeling a number of you are here for. This is a conditional use permit for a home occupation children's daycare center for the property located at 4925 Valencia Drive. And I will ask for the staff report, please.
Yes. The subject property consists of a wedge-shaped lot in the Valencia Gardens subdivision measuring just over half an acre. A two-story single-family dwelling with 4,225 square feet of living area sits roughly on the center of the lot. The applicant wishes to open a licensed daycare facility for 6 to 12 children in the basement of the home and is applying for this conditional use for a home occupation within an RA suburban residential zone district. The site plan indicates a proposed fenced-in play area measuring 40 feet by 23 3/4 feet. A semicircle drive in the front of the house may mitigate traffic concerns during morning drop-off and evening pickup times. Section 2502, General Standards for Conditional Uses, dictates that the proposed use, quote, will be harmonious with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity and that such use will not change the essential character of the same area, unquote. Staff maintains that a daycare facility is an intensive use for a residential neighborhood and not harmonious with the existing character of the Valencia Gardens residential subdivision. Further, Section 2502 states that the proposed conditional use, quote, will have vehicular approaches to the property that shall be so designated as not to create interference with existing traffic on surrounding public streets or roads, unquote. Given the nature of a daycare business with peak drop-off pickup times corresponding with morning and evening rush hour traffic, there is concern that the home occupation would interfere with the flow of residential traffic along Valencia and Ancona drives. For these reasons, the Sylvania Township zoning staff recommends denial of the requested conditional use for a home occupation children's daycare center at 4925 Valencia Drive.
Thank you. Does any of the board have any questions on the staff report? And if not, we will ask if the applicant is here, and if they would like to, if they have something they would like to say, if they want to approach the podium, we're going to ask you to sign in too, please. While he's doing that, one thing I wanted to point out, obviously there's a number of folks here you'll be given a chance to speak if you would like to. I do want to let you know and thank you for those that took the time to send an email in or a letter. Some people couldn't attend today, so we did receive and review all of those. They will go on record. One thing I asked, I guess, if you've done one in detail, once we hit a point, maybe if we don't hit the same point over and over and over again, might be best for everybody. But if you have something you feel is original or unique you want to say, by all means do that. We do want you to know that we received all of the emails. Okay.
Hi, my name is Mo Dari. I think there's some confusion on what we're trying to do there. We're not doing a child care center. We are doing a type A home, and then there's a type B home. A type B home doesn't even require a license or even to reach out to anybody for up to 6 kids. And a type A home requires up to 6 to 12 kids. So if there's any miscommunication, we're not looking to put a sign in our yard. We're not looking to mess up traffic patterns. We value that. We value the community there just as much as you guys do. I mean, when you go spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for a piece of property with a home, obviously you want to make sure your values don't go down and what have you. So that is not our intent at all. My wife actually, she's certified with a Montessori license and young children. That's the only reason she's a homemaker today, and she wanted to do something with her degree out of the house. So we're not trying to abruptly bring dozens of kids, traffic, a sign in the yard. We're not looking for none of that. And if it's that big of a concern, I kind of wish people would have reached out to us just to ask us what was going on and what we were doing. But we are not trying to do a child care center. It's not our intent. It's not what we want to do. It's just easier for us based on what I hear and the folks that have been going around talking around the neighborhood. It's just easier for us just to go to a 6 children that doesn't require no licensing or anything and go ahead and do a type B. And we're okay with that. We just didn't want to just throw things on people and force it down anybody's throat or anything like that. So, I mean, that's just pretty much, I want to make sure that it was clear what we were doing and not trying to take it to a full-blown child care center.
Okay. But what you applied for was, you're here about the one that you did apply for.
We applied for a type A, not a child care center.
Which is up to 12 kids.
Correct. Okay. Yep, and then the type B you don't have to apply for. You just open up in your home. You don't have to, it's under the state or in the city orgs that you don't have to apply for any license.
I
have it right here.
I don't know if that's the case or not.
Darrell, even with the type B, it would still be a conditional use, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what you're showing us, but any type of a daycare of any type, and this kind of zoning would require conditional use. So
Type B?
it really doesn't matter. It's the use that you're putting in. It's not just the kids.
Okay.
So, yeah, you
'Cause I looked into the codes and I didn't find anything for type B. Type A, you are correct. Type B doesn't actually speak that out for a conditional use permit. Only time you need a conditional use permit is for applying for a license to be able to maintain 6 or more children. It could be wrong, but I've checked into it just to verify.
It's the type of use that you're using for the property for. If you're using the property for residential, which that's what you're zoned for right now.
Correct.
And you're going to do anything outside of residential, which would be anything commercial, it would be a conditional use.
Well, we're not doing commercial there.
You're not going to accept money for,
What is that?
are you going to accept money for the daycare?
I run 3 businesses out of my home, and I accept money out of one of my offices, and I'm sure half the neighborhood does the same thing, works out of their home. So that wouldn't be something that...
Can you give us a clarification on that?
Sure.
What the, no,
Oh,
this-
I'm sorry.
Bring me up to speed on that.
Right, a home occupation is,
I read it, but I can't remember what it said. I believe it says any kind.
right, an occupation carried on by the occupant of a dwelling which use is clearly incidental and secondary to the use of the dwelling for dwelling purposes, does not change the external character of the dwelling or accessory structure, does not produce a sound that is audible beyond the dwelling or accessory structure, does not involve the employment of any person other than the resident of such dwelling, and does not involve direct sale of commodities or services on the premises.
What you presented here has nothing to do with the township's zoning code. This has to do with the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services licensing. So you're
Correct.
talking
I'm
about
just
something.
the definition of it based on the ordinance that you guys have. So what you guys are telling me is nobody should be operating any kind of form or fashion business within the neighborhood.
That's not what we said.
Well, that's what I'm hearing him telling me. If it changes, and you're selling services, correct?
Right, a home occupation requires a conditional use approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
To conduct any form of business.
Any home occupation, yes.
Okay. All right. That I wasn't aware of, but I'm glad that I do. And then, we'd have to bring up some other ones in the neighborhood that also have, just so everybody's treated fairly across the board. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak on behalf of this matter?
Here you go, sir. You want this back?
Before he does sit down, does anybody want to address any questions on the site plan, since he is here? Want to ask any questions of this gentleman on that? I'm sorry, yeah, I'll ask a couple. What was your intention? How would you were intending to handle the traffic flow?
Well, there's not going to be much traffic at all. We have our cul-de-sac, which they come in through our drive, and it holds up to 6 cars. So if I were to have 6 children all at one time, or 12 kids, they could be in 6 cars. And we've actually have 3 or 4 folks from the neighborhood that would actually be walking their kids down. There's the neighborhood behind us, and there's actually 2 within our neighborhood. As a matter of fact, one of them is to the west side of our property. Actually just had a newborn. That would also be providing care for.
And under the site plan, you were planning on doing an enclosed area for the kids? As
We would put a
required.
fence up, whether with or without. We're adding to the fence that is existing today.
Anybody else have any questions on how we intend to do this? Okay. All right, thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay, now, if anybody else would like to address the matter, please come on up and tell us your name and sign in.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Carol Contrada, and I reside at 5035 Valencia Drive in the neighborhood that is affected by this conditional use permit application. It's great to be back in Sylvania Township Hall. Your chairs are really comfortable, and you can stay in them, please. First, I'd like to say that I support the staff recommendation of denial. I think that was well presented, and I appreciate that from the zoning department staff. And I also am a member of the Homeowners Association, although I am not speaking for the entire neighborhood. I'm speaking for myself as a resident. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about our neighborhood. I know that there have been a number of letters and there have been petitions, so I don't want to repeat some of the things that we have put in those letters and in the petitions. But the neighborhood was built in 1983. It was an original Parade of Homes neighborhood. At that time, interest rates for residences were 18%, and yet we still have some original homeowners. I am one, and there are many in the audience today, who went through several periods of refinancing when the economy finally improved, and we've been very dedicated to that neighborhood. And we've also been welcoming to new neighbors, and we've helped them understand what works in the neighborhood and what doesn't. And we view this issue almost as one of a three-legged stool. First and foremost would be safety of the neighborhood. Second would be the deed restrictions, and the deed restrictions are quite clear that there is a limitation on what can be done in the neighborhood, and certainly home occupation and running any kind of business from the home is not permissible in the deed restrictions. We have actually worked with new neighbors who have come in and asked about fences or playground equipment or things like that to help them understand what they can do, and everyone has tried to be very harmonious with the neighborhood. We're a small neighborhood of less than 50 homes, so an increase of up to 12 drop-offs or 24 trips would be greater than 50% traffic increase relative to the number of homes in the neighborhood. And I think that that's significant because it is small. There's not a lot of room to absorb the additional traffic. One point that was made in some of the letters is how difficult it is to park along the curb on the south side of Valencia because the mailboxes all run along that side of the street. The mailman doesn't deliver mail if there's something or someone in front of the mailbox. So that is an issue. But safety, the first leg of the stool, the deed restrictions, the second leg, and the third leg, certainly the zoning code itself, which really defines how a conditional use permit may be considered, what it's for. We don't believe that either under home occupation or under daycare center that either qualify for a conditional use permit in this neighborhood because of our RA zoning. And also to speak to the Type A, Type B, and there's also a Type C residence. I do happen to have some familiarity with that, not specific to this case, but all home daycare centers, as opposed to the kind that you see that have a big sign like a Montessori center, have to be licensed by the state of Ohio. But the Lucas County Job and Family Services then does the due diligence, the background checks, and so forth, and monitors that sort of thing. So all levels of home daycare up to 12 in the Type A are licensed. You can run an unlicensed daycare center, certainly. I don't know that that's particularly reassuring to me as a neighbor, although I do have confidence, as our neighbor said, that his wife does have background and ability, so that isn't in question. Really, the third leg of the stool, the third issue, is whether or not it comports with the zoning regulations. And unfortunately, it does not, whether it's 6, whether it's 12, whether it's greater than that, it just simply doesn't meet the regulations. So we would respectfully request that you deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Anybody else would like to speak on behalf of this matter? Even though it was put very eloquently.
My name is Larry Leggett, and along with my wife Patty, we live at 4430 Ancona Drive in Valencia Gardens. First of all, I'd like to say that I strongly oppose the proposal to change the zoning at 4925 Valencia Drive. Valencia Gardens was created in 1983. We built our home there in 1989. When property was acquired, either to build or to buy an existing home, it was done so with a set of zoning laws that was designed to govern all residents equally. The builder, as I am sure many builders still do today, created documentation that outlines deed restrictions. Those restrictions serve many purposes. Well, one thing they do is to protect the investment that buyers are being asked to make. They give buyers confidence that this investment is protected because standards are not going to be compromised. The issue here today, to me, is not about the type of commercial business that's trying to be introduced. It's about any type of commercial business that's being introduced in our residential zone neighborhood. At the end of the day, people look forward to the peace, comfort, and serenity of going home. If home does not look any different than other commercially zoned business environments, all the effort people put out at work to create a place where their kids can be safe and create memories is suddenly gone. This has to be a goal of acquiring property that is zoned to protect that investment. To grant such a zoning change for a one-property request will have an immediate negative impact on all the homes in the neighborhood. And to what end? For the satisfaction of one at the expense of all others? I would like to mention, and some of this has already been done, but I would like to mention some of the realities of our neighborhood that probably are so like many others. The traffic on Whiteford Road has increased dramatically over the years. It is very difficult to enter or to exit on Whiteford Road. After 32 years, the trees have gotten significantly larger, and with that comes the beauty of living there, with the display of those leaves. When they fall, however, it requires significant congestion from all the landscape companies to go through the clearing process of getting leaves out to the street. Same issue by those landscape companies when mowing season is there from spring to fall. Then, of course, there is the traffic of other contractor repair services needed by the neighborhood. Fun times like birthday parties and just visitors to the neighbor's residence. Sometimes school buses need to be accommodated due to the congested streets. Post office delivery of mail could become an issue as the boxes sit on the same side of the street as the property requesting the zoning change. Our neighborhood has no sidewalks. So when there's walkers or runners or residents walking dogs or pushing children in strollers, all of this must be done in the street. All of these are just traffic facts that a mature development creates. But purposely adding additional traffic with drop-offs, pickups, and parking in wait to an already stressed, at times, neighborhood creates a serious safety concern for everyone, especially kids in the neighborhood. From the time we each began to build, acquire, and make our home here, there was never any mention of any possibility of this type of potential change in zoning. Therefore, I respectfully ask that you deny the request to change the zoning at 4925 Valencia Drive in Valencia Gardens. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else who want to speak on behalf of this matter? No. Okay. Any more questions? Anything else from the board?
I guess I have a little comment to make. I always have something to say. I want to commend the gentleman for getting a permit. You know, he could have been under the darkness of night and done this, okay? There's been a point brought up here that if you have a home-based business or you work a business out of your residence, that isn't the proper way either. So I just thought I'd make that mention, but I like the process that we have here, and I think everybody should get a permit to find out when they build something and do something. That's why we sat here. That gentleman did the right thing, even though it may not be in his favor. That's all I wanted to comment about. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I guess I'll note for the record that he's not requesting a zoning change. He's simply requesting a conditional use permit within the existing zoning. So I know that Larry had referred to zoning change. It's not what we're presented today. I just wanted forth that clarification.
Right, his home would still be, obviously, that property would still be residential. This is a secondary use that he was trying, that's why it's a conditional, so nothing was going to change with the zoning of these, so that is a good clarification. Also with one other thing, just because this comes before us time and again, is with deed restrictions and bylaws and so forth, that is something that you always have available to you to enforce. Our hands are a bit tied on that. We're looking at the zoning code, and that's what we rule on. So sometimes things do completely fly in the face of some of the bylaws you have. You still have a course of action in terms of taking that to court to try to enforce it. I just kind of want to point that out. What we would be ruling on today is Section 2500, which is the conditions for conditional use, specifically some of the stuff that Daryl addressed. So if that makes any sense, I just wanted to at least point that out. Looks like somebody will ask you to come on up there. Yeah, please. Yeah. Sorry. For the record.
Hi, my name is Mike Bonfiglio. I live at 5025 Cartagena, right around the loop. Not real familiar with the zoning code, but I took a look at it, and if this is, we're RA suburban residential, and it breaks out what conditional uses may be granted for that zone. One of them was home occupation. None of them were daycare facilities. So it seems to me, and this is where I may be confused, a daycare facility isn't even an option for a conditional use permit. It has to fall under the umbrella of home occupation. Home occupation is defined in Article 22 of the Supplemental Regulations 2213, and it lists a bunch of occupations. None of them are daycare facilities. Daycare facility is defined in and of itself at 2210. So I guess I'm confused because it appears there is no provision in the zoning law for a special use for daycare facility in property zoned as ours is. That's my only statement, I think. I agree with everything else everybody else said. Thank you for your time.
Sure. Comment?
Yeah, the occupations listed in 2213 are examples of home occupations. It's not meant to encompass every possible home occupation. Daycare certainly could be a home occupation as opposed to a commercial one that would have employees coming and going and parking lots and whatnot. It does fall under the home occupation. It may not be the quintessential home occupation, such as somebody who does taxes or maybe cuts hair or something like that out of their home, but it can fall under home occupation.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? I don't know if this is something we want to address now or if you feel a need to go in the back. No, I think sounds like okay. So what I'm going to ask then is I'll entertain a motion on the matter that's before us on 4925 Valencia Drive.
I'll move to approve a conditional use permit for a home occupation children's daycare center for the property located at 4925 Valencia Drive.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Mr. Slacker?
No.
Mrs. C?
it. No.
Mr. Helper?
No.
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Hayes?
No.
Thank you. Now we're on to the next matter, and I'm going to give you guys a chance. Yeah, for those who don't want to hear the rest of it, if you want to leave, take a chance to slide out.
Well, you did it right. I thought I knew who you were.
Folks, I am going to ask, we have other cases here, so we can kind of, thank you guys. Thanks. Thank you. Okay. Al, we got to pick this up. Good luck. Okay. Next case, we have an amendment request to a condition of a previously approved conditional use restricting ingress and egress to Waldmar Road to the rear of the property located at 3130 Holland, Sylvania Road and 3121 Waldmar Road. Staff report, please.
In 1986, the applicant was granted a conditional use for a restaurant in a C4 professional office zone district, quote, with the condition that there will be no egress or ingress off Waldmar, unquote. It is this condition the applicant has requested to amend. The subject property consists of 8 parcels. The 4 western parcels front Holland Sylvania Road and contain the 2 access drives, one for ingress, one for egress. The 4 eastern parcels front Waldmar Road. This frontage is currently bordered by a 6-foot-tall wooden privacy fence. The southern 2 parcels are zoned C2 general commercial, while the 6 northern parcels are zoned C4 professional office. The original zone change request in 1986 was for a change in zoning from RA suburban residential to C2 general commercial for all 8 parcels in order to construct a new Burger King restaurant. Citing the intrusion of high-density commercial into a residential area and the negative impact, the Lucas County Plan Commission recommended denial of the C2 zoning and recommended the less intense C4 zoning. At the subsequent meeting of the Sylvania Township Zoning Commission, the attorney representing the developers at that time stated that there would be no traffic access on Waldmar Road and that the area along Waldmar would be buffered. The representative from Burger King echoed this statement and added that there would be a 6-foot-tall stockade fence with bushes and trees on the street side of the fence. The Zoning Commission voted to recommend the zone change to C2. The zone change request then went before the Sylvania Township Board of Trustees. Here the board voted unanimously to change the southern 2 parcels to C2, but voted to change the northern 6 parcels to C4, as a restaurant was not and still isn't a permitted use in the C4 zone district. This required the applicant to seek a conditional use from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The trustees made the recommendation to the BZA that there be no access to Waldmar Road and that adequate screening be installed along the adjoining residential boundaries to the east and north. In their letter of intent to the BZA, the applicant stated, quote, access to this site will be accomplished by maneuvering the traffic on and off the site from Holland Sylvania Road. Waldmar Avenue, which abuts the east property line, will not be used for a means of access, unquote. The BZA unanimously approved the conditional use request for a restaurant in a C4 zone district with the condition, quote, that there will be no egress or ingress off Waldmar, unquote. The cause for the current amendment request is the recent installation by ODOT of a concrete median along Holland Sylvania Road, which the applicant contends has negatively impacted their business by limiting motor vehicle accessibility to the subject property. Southbound Holland Sylvania Road traffic cannot make a left turn into the restaurant parking lot, and customers exiting the parking lot can only turn right, north, onto Holland Sylvania Road. The applicant wishes to construct a 2-way access drive onto Waldmar Road near the southeast corner of the subject property. The proposed drive would be 25 feet wide and be in line with the drive that runs along the south of the property. It would cut into Waldmar Road approximately 280 feet north of Central Avenue. 1986, it was a significant issue to the residents on Waldmar and the Township Board of Trustees that the subject parcels not be rezoned to C2 general commercial, that there be no ingress, egress to Waldmar, and that there be adequate screening along the subject property's boundary with Waldmar to protect the residential properties from the intrusion of commercial uses, particularly that of a fast food restaurant. That recent modifications have been made to Holland Sylvania Road impacting the business in that area does not alter those concerns of 30 years ago. Further, one of the requirements specified in Section 2502, General Standards for Conditional Uses, is that the use will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be significantly detrimental to any person's property or the general welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, or odors. Staff maintains that the intensity of the use on the subject property does pose a detriment to the nearby residential uses and is not harmonious with the existing character of the Lathrop Place residential subdivision. Therefore, the Sylvania Township zoning staff recommends denial of the requested amendment to the previously approved conditional use for the property at 3122, 3128, 3132, and 3138 Holland Sylvania Road, and 3121, 3127, 3131, and 3137 Waldmar Road. If the Board of Zoning Appeals chooses to approve this amendment to the conditional use, staff strongly recommends the Board place appropriate conditions on the amendment to ensure the protection of the surrounding residential neighborhood and businesses. Conditions recommended by the zoning staff are: 1, the existing wooden stockade fence replaced with an 8-foot vinyl privacy fence along the remaining length of the property line along Waldmar Road. 2, landscaping be installed and maintained between the privacy fence and the public right-of-way of Waldmar Road. 3, any lighting on the property must be directed down so as not to illuminate adjacent residential properties. 4, a directional sign meeting the requirements of Section 3107E shall be the only signage on the Waldmar Road side of the subject property. No monument or pole signs are to be permitted. And 5, the following 2 conditions recommended by the Office of Lucas County Engineer: restrict the access to one-way exiting, traffic only, and restrict restaurant delivery service trucks from using the driveway onto Waldmar Road.
Thank you.
Who writes these reports?
Yeah, right. Okay. Any questions so far? And if not, we'll ask if the applicant is here and would like to come to the podium and hear what you have to say.
Good evening. My name is Mark Peterson. I represent Bennett Management Corporation. I have Julie Bear with me as well, and I'm sure she'll add some comments as well. But we were dreading the medium being put in on Holland, Sylvania for many, many years. And as we suspected, it's had a severe impact on our sales and our profits from an accessibility standpoint. So we would love to try to make it easier for our customers to have access to our business. And we feel that, putting the drive in the back of the restaurant would provide that accessibility to the customers with hopefully very little impact on the residential neighborhood that borders us. We've abided by, all of the agreements from 1986. We're looking to amend the conditional use for access to Waldmar. As you've seen on the map, there is currently a service drive, I guess you would call it, that runs behind the businesses there. And, as I'm there on many mornings watching the traffic patterns since the medium went in, there's a significant number of cars that are already using Waldmar and that service drive to gain access to our property out front. But it's pretty significant from about 6 to 7:15. As soon as the workers at the businesses along Central start parking their cars back there, then the aisle becomes very narrow and almost a danger situation to those employees, and the dumpster gates that are open, but cars are still navigating their way through that tiny drive, to get to our property. So there was a better view of it on the bigger shot. So all we're proposing is just an apron, basically, to get to our parking lot instead of cars that are existingly using the drive, the service drive behind the businesses along Central Avenue.
You're saying they're using that now to get to your property?
Oh, absolutely they are.
Whose service drive is it?
I have to believe it's the owner of the business.
The center right next to it.
I believe
That's a
it's
one-way.
One way.
That's a one-way, though.
Yes.
Great Clips and Subway.
Yeah,
and
Okay.
that whole strip
Balance
center.
Grill.
Strip center on the corner. It's a one-way in off of Walmart. It's only-
Right.
So you're saying
Is that up there on the bottom left?
Bottom
there?
bottom right hand
Is that what I'm
corner
looking
is
at?
where the entrance off Walmart is for that
Yeah, but
current
there's the
drive.
entry right there.
Yeah.
So they come around Walmart and go around the back of the business into that.
Right. And then there's a little opening right here into the Burger King lot.
So there is an access already.
hmm
Is that recorded? That access between the two parcels?
I don't think you guys, I mean, do you actually have an easement between the two of you, or?
I'd have to research that. I'm not sure.
I believe that there is, I really can't remember.
That's okay, I was just curious.
I think they came to us, at the time we did it.
I'm confused on the Walmart. So what's Walmart got to do? Oh, you're saying
Well, that's the
Walmart.
street.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's all right. That's
Yeah.
all right, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I've used this
Pronounce
drive myself. It is, because if I'm coming south on North Holland, Sylvania, I'll jump around the block to go to. I mean, that's some of the problems that we have with these medians. You know, it's just like the Walgreens over on the other
This
side.
is undeveloped, correct?
Correct. There's a vacant piece of property behind us. You probably got to go halfway down. There is a home directly behind us, about halfway down, directly behind our property. But then there's the vacant lot there before you get to the restaurant on Central.
I'd like to ask, some of the stuff that, Daryl, on the staff report, if it got that far, some of the conditions, have you had a chance to look at those?
You know, I just got that report about an hour before I got here, and I read through it, but I didn't have a chance to study and digest it as much as I would have liked to. Are you referring to the comments from the different?
Well, there's that, yeah, the agencies, and then also, he's I think, recommending denial, but in addition, he said, should there be an approval, there's sort of a list of conditions, and some of it is based on some of the agencies, so I didn't have a chance to look at it.
Yeah, I did read it before we got here, yes.
I mean, one is the idea that it still would be one way. That came from traffic engineer.
The Lucas County engineer.
Yeah, and so that's they're talking about one way, and you would have off of Holland, Sylvania, not two-way traffic, and so you would come off the back, but you would do a right turn only, so you wouldn't be directing traffic into the neighborhood. So you would have access. That's making sense. So where you now can only go right on the Holland, Sylvania, you would come off and you'd be able to hit the other way. So, I'm not just saying that's what they recommended, and that's something that before I saw the report.
Which is exactly the point of the service drive next to it, right? Because that's one way. So
Right.
they're only bringing
Right. Except I think they don't restrict right or left, or we're sort of saying.
See, the shopping center there has
Because
a
they're saying
one-way
just go
traffic
right.
flow.
Yeah, so they don't add traffic.
The shopping center there has a one-way traffic flow. Is that correct, Daryl? Okay.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought you said yes.
We would,
Anyway,
this would be the opposite direction.
when you go into that where Radio Shack was, okay?
Right.
And you go into, you have to go in there off Holland, Sylvania. You can't come in there off Walmart.
This is it right here.
Well, you can on the rear of the building. It's one way.
Yeah, there's a larger shot
Yeah.
on one of the
Yeah.
previous
Yeah.
slides.
It's one way coming in here, and
And then where's
Oh, yeah.
traffic?
There was a slide a few back that showed it pretty well.
They just go one way,
come in,
make a right
you
turn.
go out here,
Because what they're
but
complaining
coming
about,
in
the only
on
way
this
to go.
drive.
Yeah, that's
You can't go
on the
this
exit.
right.
Yeah, right.
And then you
Looks like
Then
you-
you're not
you
blowing
exit
traffic onto the
Waldmar in
street.
front of the building,
No trucks or anything. No trucks are going to want to do that.
or exit onto Waldmar in the front of the
only
building.
condition I think makes sense.
Behind the
Traffic
building,
onto
you
this.
you enter from Waldmar. So it's a
Right.
big loop.
Right, this is one way this way.
And then they have the entrance on Holland, Sylvania, right here.
So really, if you wanted to get into Burger King, I assume that's the place, you would come down Walmart and take a right and go down behind that unit
Right, and then
and come in that service drive.
right.
But, okay.
Well, isn't,
So, I mean-
isn't part of your issue more how they leave you now, because it's right turn only,
Yes.
because of the barricade. So you're looking for some ability to get people out.
Correct.
Yeah,
We feel
that's
it would
right.
benefit our customers if they could exit out to the right and get to
And-
Central Avenue, because there's no left out of our store.
Right, so the county engineering, and again, I'm just at least trying to, something that is suggesting you would do a one-way here and come out, and it would only be one-way direct and a right turn only. So that would get your folks that can do the drive-through and get out.
Mhm.
Now you've got Holland Swing to go right and this way to go left.
But you could come in off Walmart.
No, we
No.
cannot.
No.
We cannot, which I think is probably better.
Yeah, because then that'd be too
Yeah.
much traffic.
Um,
Trying to go both ways.
You get out on Walmart, so you can get onto Central Avenue, which now
Right.
they've lost the ability
But
to
if
do.
I'm coming down Walmart and there's nobody in that service road there, I can just pull into that restaurant. Is that?
Well,
No,
it's
it's
just going to be
one-way
a
only.
one-way out.
Right,
Only go
it's
out.
only
Well, that's what the county is recommending. We would prefer it be an enter-exit. We would prefer that they would be
I don't
able to
see where
enter
that
from
would
that
help.
drive as
It
well.
will, because if you're
Oh, it
coming
will.
to, if you're going to the restaurant on South Holland, Sylvania, there's no way to get it unless you have to do a U-turn at Central.
Correct.
Right.
And that's very difficult. The paddles are going way too out. It's a difficult U-turn. Why the paddles are extending out as far as they do in the intersection is ODOT designed it that way.
So have you reached out to the neighbors at all about this?
No, we debated whether we should reach out to them before today's meeting or after. It's probably the right thing to do. Again, I don't think it's going to increase. I can't say that it wouldn't increase traffic, but the traffic is already there and using that service drive. Those that have figured it out.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of figuring it out as well, because, I mean, the traffic's already there. Because I know, because I've done it. I've
Yeah.
come down this Wadmar and took a right into that service drive.
Yeah. Now that's showing. It must be a later in the day picture because you're seeing the employees' cars parked there, and it really becomes treacherous for right there. Yeah, get the dumpsters and the employee parking there from the businesses right there. It's a tight squeeze. If you've used it, you know what I'm talking about. So.
I would assume there is no parking behind that building.
Well, it has striping.
I don't think they can park there.
There's parallel park striping there. I don't know whether it's supposed to be there.
I don't
but
think so because you can't get a fire truck through there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's illegal parking, because it's pretty narrow.
Right.
Fire department didn't mind the extra access. Yeah, I think the fire department didn't mind the extra access. They're always happy with. more
Yeah,
access.
you go to the site plan, that's Exhibit 5.7. So let's assume you have in and out access
Uh-huh.
here, and someone comes in and they want to go into the drive-through lane.
Uh-huh.
So we've got cars would be coming in here. This is the drive-through lane right here, right?
Yeah.
And cars coming in here.
Right.
Is there enough room on the outside of that to have?
There is an escape lane. Yeah, there's room for 2-car passage.
And now I'm just trying to think, do you have other locations that have that same setup, and how does that flow work? I would
Yes,
assume on
we
a busy...
do. I recall. Again, we've got 25 locations, but I can think of 2 that have a very similar layout. Front Street. Yeah, our restaurant on Front Street. It's a matter of there's an entrance off the side. It's very similar to this one, and
Right.
again, the cars kind of like you're going into a double drive-through at McDonald's. They kind of sort themselves if it becomes a choke point, so to speak. We've
that's
talked about
exactly what I'm talking about, because you get, it's lunchtime, you get them stacked up here,
yeah.
and then you've got people that need to go around
Yeah.
who have left the restaurant. Well, they might go out here, but let's say they wanted to go around here,
Mhm.
and you've got somebody coming in trying to merge into this lane. It just seems
Yeah.
to be a...
Well, we've
Something
also
to
talked
monitor.
about cutting a lane into the front of our restaurant. Right across there, we've done it in a number of
Oh, okay.
restaurants, a single lane to improve the flow of traffic, especially if cars are parked on the south side coming in to eat and they want to exit. They would be able to go around the building, use the one lane in the front of the store, and exit back out, to the right, to Central. And that's worked well in a number of locations that we've put the single drive in the front of the store. There is room to do that, right in the front of the store to improve the traffic flow.
Any other questions at this point?
Julie, was there any other points that? I'm sorry, I
If
didn't
you
mean
do,
to
I'll
interrupt.
need you to come on up and, yeah.
She's a
I was speaking
resident.
from the
She's
peanut
lived
gallery.
there all her life, a couple blocks away, and she might be able to speak clearer to the traffic patterns in the immediate area.
Hi. I've been a resident of that area since 1982, and I totally agree that back in 1982, we didn't need an access drive to the back of that restaurant. But since the medium drive has been put in at the front of that store, I don't know if you're at that corner very much, but I did it today, exactly what this gentleman was talking about, as I went down that access drive to our neighbors to get out onto Holland-Sylvania Road, and I had a heck of a time pulling out of there, being that access is so close to Central Avenue. So that's one concern, is that you got people trying to pull out so close to I even did it down at Goodhue today to get to the back of the restaurant just to take a look at the rear of the property before I came. And I had a heck of a time getting across Holland-Sylvania Road to the other side, just down Goodhue to get to Waldemar. But we visited that restaurant not too long ago. What you see there is that people are clearly using the access drive of our neighbors. At a lunchtime, like this gentleman says, that's a very tight situation there. And there are people, employees, that are parking laterally, or what do you call it? It's longwise
Parallel parking.
behind the building, and it really shortens up the distance between that access drive and the building, and employees coming out, smoking their cigarettes, taking their lunch break or whatever. I viewed it as kind of a dangerous situation for them. So hopefully, something like this would alleviate some of the traffic from everybody going to that access drive and allowing people to come into our drive-through or go around our building and get out on Holland-Sylvania Road and turn right. That whole area has just changed, over the years. So it's getting busier. The traffic lights seem to be a little bit longer now since they put in the medians. I think it gets people a little antsy while they're sitting there waiting for the light to change. I myself, I bank at Key Bank there, and I don't go down to do the U-turn. I go down to Goodhue, and I go down the side street to get to the bank. It feels less stressful to me to do that than to get down to the corner and have to make a U-turn in front of traffic that's coming 35, 40 miles an hour. Now when I turn left onto Holland-Sylvania Road to head south, I get the light there at Walmart, which never used to happen. So you're sitting there waiting for the light. It seems like you're waiting longer. You turn the corner, and then, bam, I'm stuck by another red light. So I don't know how other people feel about that situation and that whole area, but I think this could do nothing to be an improvement for us and for the people that live in that neighborhood. The traffic is already increased in those neighborhoods just by the median being put in. People are looking for easier ways to get access to our neighbors, place you get your hair cut, the new restaurant that's there on the corner. But I think it's just a win-win for both of us, really.
Thanks. Thank you.
Before you go, just state your name. I know you wrote it down,
I'm
but
sorry,
state it.
Julie Bear. I also work for Bennett Management.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just wanted that on the record.
You want to
Thank you.
address the 5 recommendations here?
The recommendations that were made.
Putting the 8-foot vinyl privacy fence along the back of the restaurant would be a significant investment versus the existing fence and a nice coat of paint on it. We've always maintained landscaping back there. That back southerly corner there's a old tree that's really dead. you look at it, it needs to come down. And that's probably right where the apron would go. It's in that picture right there, that large tree is gone. And the apron would actually be to the left of that. So the tree's kind of an eyesore. But yeah, we would hope that we would get both in and out in the back there. But it's to decide, I guess. We are, since that medium went in, we are operating in the red, unfortunately. So we're fighting to get the sales back that we've lost. I do have some graphs and some numbers that I could share with you if need be. But it's been ugly because not only has the median hurt us, but the improvements to the intersection of Central Avenue for the last 3 to 4 years have had a significant impact on the business. The median was the last coup de grace, so to speak. It's really hurt us. We were hoping that the traffic patterns would improve and people would be using the U-turns, but we just haven't experienced that. It's just steadily declining. So, thank you.
How long has it been? Does anybody know how long it's been?
No, he meant since the median finished.
Yes, median.
I want to say it finished in the early summer, was it?
Yeah, I say less than a year.
Yeah,
But
I
I
drive
know
down
every
there
time I
plenty.
drive,
Earlier
I drive
this
like
year.
every day, to
Earlier
and
this
from
year,
when I
okay.
go to work. It's very dark over that. Like there's no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody
One
else?
other question. Do you have any remodeling or updating plans set for that store?
Julie, when is a franchise agreement up there? Do you know right offhand?
But we are in the process of remodeling some stores.
We have a significant number of stores that Mrs. Bennett owns that are coming due for remodels. We're actually working on 3 of them as we speak: Airport Highway, Central and King, and Navarre Avenue. And then I believe there'll be 4 more done next year, and then there has to be 5 more done by the end of 2017. But I can't specifically state Holland, Sylvania is one that's due. I can look into that. But it's going to be tough to make that $500,000 investment if the conditions don't change.
Yeah.
From where we're at. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly part of it is access, and I think comparatively, if you look at the other fast food restaurants in the area who have undergone some type of modernization, that seems to help.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
As well.
Yeah, we're a little tired, and we realize that, and we need to refresh.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else here that wants to speak on behalf of this matter? Nobody? Okay. This one, I personally would probably need to have some discussion on.
Yes, definitely.
So what we're going to do is we're going to adjourn shortly, and we're going to confirm back for a bit, and we'll come out with a decision, and we'll try to move this timely because we know we have some other folks waiting. So we're going to adjourn momentarily.
And some kids, I take them out to that car
I wouldn't blame them. We lost Ian. Well, let's see, now they're not going to escort or Ian down. Okay.
He must have shut.
Yeah.
You ready to roll down? Okay. Okay, we're back in session. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. We appreciate it. So I think at this point, we're ready to entertain a motion.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So I move to approve amendment request to a condition of a previously approved conditional use, restricting egress and ingress to Waldmar Road for the rear property located at 3130 Holland, Sylvania Road, 3121 Waldmar Road. So this would be an amendment to approve that, and I would make it subject to these conditions. Number one, any lighting on the property must be directed down so that as not to illuminate adjacent residential properties. Number two, a directional sign meeting the requirements of section 3107-E shall be the only signage on Waldmar Road, side of the subject property. No monument or pole signs are to be permitted. Number three, there's two conditions in number three. 3A would be restrict exiting traffic to right turn only. And coinciding with that, allowing incoming traffic to the north side of that. So in other words, exiting traffic would have to go to the right or to the south, but you'd have ingress from either the north or the south, the left or right turn. Then B to 3 would be restrict restaurant delivery service trucks from using the driveway onto Waldmar. And then condition 4 would be subject to the existing, if there is an existing cross-access easement with the property to the south, closing the access between those two adjoining properties near the Holland, Sylvania entry.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah,
Sure.
You cannot put the driveway in the back if you can't close that easement off.
One out front.
Correct.
Yeah, New Balance.
Correct.
and- but, yeah,
I second that motion.
Okay.
We didn't request to put that in. I think the people next to us did. So we're going to check to see what kind of
That'll be between you guys to work out. So we're giving you a scenario where you would be able to get this, but that's something you would need to work out with them.
Okay, so that access has to close before.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just on our property, not their access out to the street.
No.
Correct.
Right, that's correct. You're right, just onto your property. Okay, is there a second on that?
I second.
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Schlockman?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mrs. C?
Yes.
Mr. Halbert?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next one. I feel so bad. Totally blank. Conditional use permit for a residential care facility and clinic for the property located at 5701, 5755, 5757, 5803, and 5841 Whiteford. Bingo. Can we have the staff report?
Yes. The subject property consists of 5 parcels on the west side of Whiteford Road. 4 of these parcels, 5701, 5755, 5757, and 5841 Whiteford Road, are owned by the applicant and are zoned R3 residential. The parcel at 5803 Whiteford Road is currently owned by another party and is zoned RA suburban residential. However, there is a pending zone change request to rezone that parcel to R3 as well. The applicant operates a residential care facility on the 4 R3 zone parcels and wishes to build a one-story addition onto the existing building. This addition will necessitate additional parking spaces for the facility. The applicant intends to purchase the adjoining lot at 5803 Whiteford Road, demolish the single-family residence on the property, and use that parcel for parking. The applicant is seeking a conditional use for a residential care facility and clinic for the 4 original parcels for 2 reasons. An original conditional use for a sanitarium was granted in 1959 to Montreux Nursing Home for the parcel that had an address at that time of 5112 Argonne Place. In 1987, a continuance of the original conditional use was granted to Briarfield, Inc. for a nursing home at the current address of 5757 Whiteford Road. The Sylvania Township Zoning Department maintains that given the address, ownership, and nomenclature changes that have taken place over the previous decades, as well as the property comprising 4, soon to be 5 addresses and parcels, a renewed conditional use would be prudent for the sake of posterity and a clean, accurate record. Secondly, the proposed addition to the residential care facility is to be a dialysis center to be used by patients outside the facility, as well as the residents of the facility. This use falls under the definition of clinic more so than residential care facility. Both are conditional uses under Section 1002 of the Sylvania Township Zoning Resolution. As the property at 5803 Whiteford Road will be an accessory use for parking to the primary use at the other addresses, a conditional use will be necessary for the parcel pending the zone change to R3 residential. Residential care facility and clinic are not acceptable conditional uses in the current RA zone. This conditional use request is an affirmation of the previously approved conditional uses and is consistent with the land use plan suburban residential designation for the area. Further, it will encompass all relevant parcels so as to avoid any future misunderstanding or uncertainty in regards to the parcel's use. Sylvania Township zoning staff recommends approval of the requested conditional use for a residential care facility and clinic at 5701, 5755, 5757, and 5841 Whiteford Road, and for 5803 Whiteford Road pending the approval of the requested zone change to R3 residential.
Okay. And we can do, it's not a cart before the horse, we can do the conditional use before it's zone change to R3.
Right, because it would be pending that zone change. So
Okay.
That'll be before the Lucas County Plan Commission in January.
Okay. Any questions so far? Is there somebody here to speak on behalf of this matter?
My name is Mark Schambarger. I'm the agent for the owner, Genesis Healthcare. What's transpiring on this is, again, the existing property does not have conditional use, which, again, we're looking for that to be able to enable us to extend or expand onto the property. Parking is tight as it is right now, so we would provide additional parking. We would provide the necessary buffering against the other residential properties. Again, any site lighting issues, anything else would be addressed as not to provide light pollution or anything else.
That's all falls under site plan approval. So that's good news. They need to expand. That's a positive thing. Any questions? So really what we are doing is cleaning up so we have conditional use under our current code.
Right, and also for the 5803.
For the new piece.
Get that in line with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's really really what we're here for.
Right. I felt that with the change in ownerships, the address changes, it's interesting that in 1959 that it had a Argonne Place address, even though it was west of Whiteford, and I couldn't find any map showing that Argonne Place went west of Whiteford. I mean, everything looked like it should have a Whiteford address, but for whatever reason, it had Argonne Place. And then just also the name changes, the sanitarium, and then nursing home, and now residential care facility, just to kind of clean things up and, going forward. 10 years from now, when somebody in our place is looking back on this, trying to figure out what's going on, hopefully this will kind of tie it all together for me.
Right. So I was born. I wonder if that's where it came from. Sanitarium on Whiteford. Any other questions for the applicant? Anybody else want to speak on behalf of this matter? All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll do it.
All right.
Long-winded one. Make a motion for the conditional use permit for a residential care facility and clinic for the property located at 5701, 5755, 5757, 5803, and 5841 Whiteford Road. Parcel numbers 78-13441, 78-13451, 78-13444, 78-68284, and 78-13454, respectively.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for waiting. And we have a variance, on to the next one. We have a variance request from the front setback requirement for a pole sign of 10 feet required to 3 feet provided for the property located at 2656 Reynolds Road. And along with that, we have another request for a side setback requirement for a pole sign of 10 foot required to 2 foot provided for the property located at 2656 Reynolds Road. And can we have the staff report, please?
Section 3107B of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution requires a pole sign to be at least 10 feet from the public right-of-way and at least 10 feet from an adjoining property line. The applicant is requesting a variance of 7 feet from the right-of-way setback in order to site the pole sign 3 feet from the public right-of-way. The applicant also requests a variance of 8 feet from the property line setback in order to site the sign 2 feet from the northerly property line. Currently, a non-conforming monument sign exists on the property within the public right-of-way of Reynolds Road. The property to the immediate south of the subject property also has a non-conforming monument sign in the public right-of-way. Sylvania Township zoning staff finds no hardship or special circumstances on this property to necessitate a variance from Section 3107 of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution. Figure 7.6 indicates the approximate parameters for siting a pole sign. The applicant states in their letter of intent that they would lose at least 4 parking spaces if the sign were sited according to the regulations. However, staff feels that no more than 2 parking spaces would need to be eliminated to accommodate the pole sign. Additionally, there are 54 parking spaces on the subject property. Given the size and use of the office building, only 28 spaces are required per Section 2912 of the zoning resolution. Sylvania Township zoning staff recommends denial of both the requested variance to the front setback requirement and the requested variance to the side setback requirement for a pole sign at 2656 Reynolds Road.
Thank you. Okay. There's somebody here to speak on behalf of
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
I'm Kevin Neifer with Harmon Sign Company here in Toledo, representing Wren Hill. Barry Howell, the present owner of the property here. Our request for the variance basically, we feel pretty cut and dried and comes down to 2 issues. One, the setback. We would, if you look at the properties to the south across Regency, in the other view there, I believe looking south, I believe I have one on there. Most of the signs on that property up to the stoplight just south of Regency, most of those signs are roughly 13 to 15 feet from the curb, which puts them basically, I believe, right at the right-of-way or beyond the right-of-way, closer to the curb. Based on the current requirement of the 10-foot setback, this sign would be 40 feet from the curb. And I understand if we go beyond the intersection further south, it actually becomes the city of Toledo there, and I understand that. But those signs there are the farthest setback on those from the curb is, I believe, 33 feet. So we would be even further back than any of those are, and obviously I understand that's not relevant to Sylvania Township, but that's the main criteria. Obviously, the farther we get away from that curb line, the larger the sign has to be, which increases the cost, which is something we really don't want to do. Second concern is loss of parking space. Now, the board has come to the conclusion we only would lose 2 parking spaces. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I...
Yeah, we feel that because, and one of the reasons we're looking at, we're kind of stuck into that north location. If we come down to the south, there's just no place to put the sign at all because of any of the setbacks on the south side of the property at the entrance. So we're really kind of stuck going on that north corner there. And I really think that's the best location for that sign based on that property. Especially when you come look at the setback requirement, we'd be 40 feet from that curb line, which would, I believe, have the farthest setback on any sign that's visible from that property. Our concern on the parking is people backing out mainly from the, I guess it'd be the east side, east parking. Just losing so much space there if we drive that sign clear back to the east any further. So that's our main concern. We really would prefer, granting this variance to keep us closer in visibility to all the other neighbors' businesses in that area, both north, Carter Lumber to the north, and the property to the south.
Well, they're both further back than what you're proposing.
Well, you can see.
No, they're not. There's no signage on that south property that is set back further than what we are requesting. All those are located.
That's the Carter sign.
That's the Carter.
So where are you saying you want to go?
Top, right there. If you come down to that property south of this current property in there, which is in Sylvania Township, all those properties are within 13 to 15 feet from the curb. And we, at this point, I believe, would be 24.
So not where you have the temporary sign.
Pardon?
So not where they have the future home of the Wren Hill sign.
No, that actually is inside the current right-of-way, that sign there.
Right, that's what I'm wondering.
The property line is about the middle of the parking spaces to the right of the temporary sign there, the old sign. Yeah, the property line runs right in through there, about halfway through that parking space. So if we would be back in the middle of basically the driveway between the 2 parking spaces.
Well, no.
The property to the south is pretty much in the same boat as this one. They're developed at the same time. There's part of the same subdivision. They've also got the non-conforming sign in the right-of-way. Then south of that is City of Toledo.
Say that again. About City of Toledo?
Yes, yeah. South of...
That's City of Toledo?
Right, south of that property, it's
Right.
City of Toledo. Then the Carter Lumber sign, I didn't get out and measure it. It looks like they're, the 10 feet from the setback. I used the measuring tool on GIS, which isn't exact.
Between the right-of-way and the dotted is where he's going.
Came out to 10
Right.
feet.
Okay.
He has one too. It's like zoom in.
Maybe I did submit one.
What you have to do is create a little island and set it in the island.
But I thought he, okay, so I thought you just finished saying you wanted to put it on the north corner?
Yeah, he's talking about doing it up here.
Okay.
But that's kind of where it shows.
Right,
the
right,
line.
right, the distance,
This
right.
is the Cap Hill sign sitting to the
Mhm.
south in the city of Toledo. Are you planning on having the LED message center that shows on this?
Yes, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, based on our request, and I don't know what, maybe it doesn't matter if I'm talking about the distance from the curb to the setback, but it's safer for me to measure that than it is from the center of Reynolds. But I did find a pin in Regency, which I assume was the property, was the setback from the center of the road. Because what I was able to measure that one morning before it got real busy, and all the dimensions I came up with were very, very close to what the drawing has, the property drawing. So we're requesting to get to some comparison here. We would be 33 feet from the curb to the edge, leading edge of the sign. The properties to the south are 15 foot from the curb to the edge of the sign.
Yeah, we're only
Same-
concerned about
in the same zone.
township.
Pardon?
So what we're concerned
The one to the
about-
immediate
Those
south
are in the township.
is in the township, but beyond that
Right.
is in the city of Toledo.
Yeah, I believe the township runs somewhere right through or to the south edge of the next street, south there.
Yeah, Elmer is the
Elmer Drive or something like
boundary.
that, right? So we just feel that would be, a fair variance to allow her to have that sign closer to the curb versus that, we would be 40 feet.
The sign itself, obviously, you're not asking for any variances, you're going to keep
No.
that within the code dimensions.
I don't believe that, as far as I know, the sign conforms to all the codes.
So when was this Cap Everhill sign put in?
A long time ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, a long time ago.
I don't know, quite a
I mean,
while
that's-
ago.
Well, this one, you talking about this one right here?
Like it's, I don't know when that
Oh, you're right,
sign
you're
was
right.
added.
You're right, probably not very old.
I'm not talking about the low-level
Right.
monument. There's a
Yeah, I
this
wouldn't
pole
think
sign.
that.
Did you do that one?
No. I wouldn't think that electronic sign's been on there that very many years at this point.
Because my point is that's sitting outside of this 10-foot setback. And my question is, when was that?
And that's in the township? That's in the township.
Is this the picture?
Yeah, that's the one.
We don't believe there's any, as far as granting the variance, I don't see any negative effects on any adjoining properties because there's just such a wide open space there. The concern on the parking is, Wren Hill's business is driven by clients coming into that facility all day long. So people aren't coming in there and just staying there for an hour and a half, 2 hours at a time. It's a constant flow of traffic.
Okay.
Ideally, we would like to put that sign, and I know this is not relevant, but we would ideally would like to locate the sign in the center of the property right where the old one is. But obviously that's out of the question. But
Yeah. Sure. Okay. I don't think that, in my issues, I don't know that I'm seeing any hardship for giving a
Let's see if
variance.
there's anyone else that wants to talk, and then let's go back.
Yeah. So I think we're going to adjourn. I know you guys are very patient.
Unless you'd like to speak?
Yeah, I mean, did you want to
Before
say?
we go?
Oh, yeah, okay, that'd be great.
My name is Barry Hill. I'm the owner of Wren Hill, and we selected this property and are actually in the process of renovating it right now. We selected it because of the visibility. Where we're at in Perrysburg right now, we don't have that. We do rely on the traffic flow and those parking spaces. I understand you say we'd only lose 2. I don't see how, but we're going to lose at least 4 spaces. We have 40 staff members and 11,000 square feet. We're eating up most of those parking spaces with our staff. We have applicants coming in and out, all day long, every day. We need those extra spaces, and while 2 or 4 to you guys may not seem like a lot or a hardship, but it really does create a hardship, and we're trying to put people to work. We need those applicants coming in. That is the nature of our business, and it is critical to us.
Any questions? Okay, we're going to adjourn briefly, and we'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody
Must be
go.
100 degrees in that. It's like, come over here and freeze.
You're getting older. Let's get maybe you thin it out.
Refreshing my memory of, looking at the code, there really is nothing here. Okay. We're back on the record. So we're going to entertain a motion in a minute. A couple things that we did want to point out. We're glad you found a good building, and it's exciting to see you bring it to the township. A couple things, whenever a win-win's possible, we like it to be that way. You obviously, one of your options is that you do have a sign there that's existing that can remain. Another plus you do have is you've got as much parking as you do, which under a new building you would not get because a lot of your parking's in the right of way. So those are some positives. The issue we always have is there is under 2406, and I'm sure Herman's familiar with it, for us to get a variance in a situation like this, it's a pretty narrow, and it gives you the specific conditions. Economic hardship, that is not one of the qualifiers. And in a case like this, what we all struggle with, we want to see development go, but we're not finding a hardship necessarily on its face. And some of this is you have a sign, you have parking, and losing some of that ends up being self-created to have what you want there. So with that said, I guess I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion for a variance request from the front setback requirement for a pole sign of 10 foot required to 3 foot provided for the property located at 2656 Reynolds Road, parcel number 7857351. Second variance request for the side setback requirement for the pole sign of 10 foot required to 2 foot provided for the property located at 2656 Reynolds Road, parcel number 7857351.
Second.
Mr. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Slacker?
No.
Mrs. Steve?
No.
Mr. Hilbert?
No.
Mr. Miller?
No.
And I'm actually going to add one other comment on precedent. Harmon was here before us not too long ago with this similar type of request for another business in the area that was also denied. And obviously we think it's important, this board thinks it's important to be consistent for safety along Ronald Road. And so whatever took place with some of this other signage, we're not sure who or what, under what conditions those came in at, but the ones that we've seen on Ronald Road, we're trying to be consistent with that.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
The existing sign that
Okay.
Can you come to
Yeah,
the podium?
So the existing sign that you're referencing that obviously we have today, what are limitations to retrofit that then and upgrade that? If we can use that existing sign, I love the idea. Can I put my electronic message board and light that up then?
No.
No, that's the issue, because then you're subject to all the current rules once you start modifying that.
But we can use it in its current state.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Even though it's in the wrong place, we can still continue
Yeah,
to use it.
Because it's existing.
Correct, it exists.
It's existing.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Unless there being no other new business, motion for adjournment? Wait, there is one other item. For January, it's been requested that we move our meeting to the 11th, since the trustees will be meeting just before that in terms of appointments and confirming any board members. So I guess we'd like to put it, I don't think we need a motion for that, do we? Just put it on the record. Our meeting will be, our regular January meeting will be 4:30 on the 11th. And hope everybody has a great holiday. And hope we keep this board intact. Thank you. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. Adjourn.
Yeah.
Then we're getting out about.
Oh.
Yeah, I kind of thought so. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Maybe Tim wants to stay a little longer. Sorry.
I was trying to get to 7 o'clock.
Hey, we're getting out 50 minutes earlier than we did a month ago.
Yeah.
That's true.
For the.
Yeah, that was it.
All right. Well,
Did a lot
have a
of
good
people
night.
show up?
Good night, Al.
Was there a lot of people that showed up for that?
Oh, it was jammed.
Was it?
Yeah.
So
You too.
Air conditioning on.
So this board may, I mean, at least the openings, the current folks are interested in sticking
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
And then you may have some on the zoning commission.
Yeah, that's where we've really got.